Well, I wanted to talk a bit about being creative, for one. I don't know, there are a few things maybe, but yeah, and meditation and, composing. Um, I don't know, I just haven't felt creative recently. So I just thought, I don't really hear about creativity from a Dhamma perspective.
Okay. I would say offhand that most of the reason why the amount of literature in the Dhamma is so vast, a whole bookshelf full of stuff, and that's just the Tripitaka or the Tipitaka or the
Mhm,
Tapai Sadok. It depends upon what country you're in as to how you pronounce it. The three baskets take a
mm,
whole bookcase full of books, and the reason for that was because the old monks way back when were quite creative. The Buddha would have never figured out uh, the path
mm,
unless he was able to have that as an aspect of creativity, which is basically the art of research by looking at something one direction and then another. Now, in music, I'll give you several examples of that. Have you ever heard of Steve Allen? Steve
uh,
Allen ran the night show or the Tonight Show on television many years ago, like back in the 1950s,
yeah, like before Johnny Carson.
before Johnny Carson, precisely.
Mm,
And that on one of his monologues, he was also quite a musician, and that he was talking about creativity. And so what he did was he he took a photo of a skyline of a city that had high-rise buildings, and he
mm,
would just paint a note on each of the buildings, and then he played that on the piano, and that was a brand new song.
right.
Okay. Another way of thinking about it is that taking um, all of Beethoven's music, you probably know, is because it's based upon a very short theme. That he
Yeah.
doesn't have long extrapolated melodies. That it's just the same few notes over and over and over and over again.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Variations.
you can hear that in the Sixth Symphony, but the most obvious place is in the first movement of the Fifth Symphony. Da 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 da. That's the whole symphony. It's the whole movement.
Yeah.
But he does it over and over and over and over and over again. And so creativity does not necessarily mean that it's got to be something big and complex. It can be something very simple,
Mm,
and that you build upon that or grow from it. But it also has a lot to do with confidence. That in fact, what I'm mentioning now would be what is called writer's block. When they're working too hard to try to come up with the next paragraph instead of just stopping and getting away from it and having easy thoughts about it, and then an idea will come. And then they can expand upon that. So, creativity is, in fact, a kind of a letting go as opposed to working it out or struggling with it.
mm,
Um, Edison had the concept that invention is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. You probably heard that.
hmm.
All right. Actually, The perspiration part was when he was working too hard, and the inspiration was all that it was. An example of that was when he was making the light bulb, the filaments kept burning out. And all he had to do was to come up with the right kind of filament in the right kind of atmosphere. And so he found out, I mean, by just experimenting, just by playing with it, he found that the filament had to be something that could get hot and stay hot and keep its shape. And then you put it into a gas that is what is called a noble gas. And he found, he actually experimented and found that argon was the gas. That even if you put it in carbon dioxide, if the heat of the filament is too hot, it will break down the carbon and the carbon dioxide into oxygen, and then the oxygen is freed up will eat the filament. Okay, and that if you put nitrogen in it, nitrogen is not a noble gas, and so nitrogen at high temperatures will interfere. So he had to come up with, but that's so logical, but it took him so long because he was working too hard at it. And so the story about Beethoven is that he would often just go on a walk and just hum to himself. And that was how he would come up with his short melodies, is just by walking, not trying to compose. If you're trying to compose, you'll have writer's block. You want something. But if you let your mind just wander easily, happily, it can come up with creativity. But when you say, oh no, I've got to be creative right now, then you're going to feel bad because you can't.
Yeah. So the creativity is just like a natural thing.
Well, in a way, it's a kind of a freedom. And yet we think that we can put creativity in a box. We can force it. Many examples of this, like the scientist who is working out a mathematical problem and he can't get it. And so he gets tired and he goes to sleep. Einstein was actually famous for this kind of stuff, that he, during the sleep or during the dream, or he would wake up with the solution. It was already there for him.
Yeah.
He just worked too hard to get it.
I'm finding that I can't really, I'm thinking about it like music, you know, all day, because I'm going into uni and stuff and, you know, getting lessons and stuff. And then I find, you know, I'm switching off at night, but then I'm like, when I'm going to bed, you know, trying to get to sleep, I just like my mind is kind of going into this weird state of like, I don't know, just thinking about like tasks I have to do and notes, thinking about some melodies or like songs that I've heard. So it's like maybe
well, that's going to be the source of your creativity. One of the famous things that they do is play a song backwards, playing it in a different tempo, changing it from major to minor, and playing with it.
Yeah.
Just experiment and playing with it, rather than putting the pressure on yourself of you've got to come up with something.
Also, there's a struggle with like There's a thing, a thought. If there's a thing with like I don't know. I question the path of like being a musician, you know. When I think about you know, it would be just easier to just like probably just ordain or something like that. Oh, or I don't know. I just sometimes feel like um, I don't know. Maybe sometimes I think that I'm wasting my time, I guess, with it.
If you did ordain, then what?
Well, yeah, I don't think that would be good either. But I just think that.
Well, it might be that in fact ordination is something that for the Westerner it happens way too often of, oh, I've got to get away from this and that's my escape route.
Yeah, yeah.
In Thailand, many of the young men who become monks because their family expects them to do it. It's part of the culture. But possibly the best way of all to do it is to come to the conclusion that what you've been doing is not fulfilling, but that has to come from real wisdom. The
Hmm.
example would be that when somebody does not like their job and they want to quit, that's not always a very good idea. In fact, it's almost never a good idea. But the right thing for them to do instead is learn to be happy and joyful on their own in seclusion, and then go and learn to do that job happily and joyfully. And after they
Right.
learn to do the job happily and joyfully, then they can begin to see it with real wisdom, that they're no longer trying to escape from it. They can see that actually what it is. And then they begin to see, oh, the job itself is not wholesome.
Right.
Selling stuff is not a very wholesome profession.
Yeah.
Manufacturing of articles that people don't need is not a good profession. So that's the right time to ordain, is when you recognize
Yeah.
that uh, you've already gotten to the point of seeing that the world itself is not uh, a good environment for anyone.
Mm.
But we can't see that because we are, in fact, seeing it from the position of, I don't like it. And
Okay.
so, in the job that you're creating for yourself, the right thing to do is to get yourself into a happy mood first, with the confidence. Oh, I'll compose later because I really know how to do that and I'm really good at it. And then the melodies will come
Hmm.
because you've got the background. But if you put pressure on yourself, oh, I've got to get this thing into to the benefactor or to uh, the the screen guild or to the teacher or whoever it
Yeah.
is, putting ourselves under pressure.
Yeah.
That in fact that often happens with very let us say modern musicians who become celebrities. Is that they learn to play with it. They're sitting in their bedroom and they come up with this riff or they come up with this song or whatever like that, and it becomes famous. And then now they put the real pressure on themselves for side B.
Yeah.
That's in the old days when you had 45s where you had one tune side A and another tune side B. But anyway, uh,
Yeah.
the point is that we put pressure on ourselves to come up with something just as creative as we came up with when now we're in a different mood. The same thing happens actually in meditation, in the sense that somebody is practicing correctly, they're relaxing, they're getting their mojo together, and they really get into a really good state. And then they go out of that meditation, they come back for meditation later, and now they've added a new ingredient. They remember what they did and they want it again. So now they've got great desire built into their practice of meditation, And that's why they're not having a good session this time. It's
Mm.
because they're trying to repeat what happened in the last time. They put pressure on themselves, etc., like that, rather than coming back to the point of just relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
So
be in the moment.
that's so that's where a lot of the creativity is going to come from, is by not putting pressure on yourself.
Mm. Putting ease upon yourself, putting something else on yourself.
Right.
Um,
You
yeah,
get
so
really
being
easy going, and then things will just pop up naturally.
yeah, I start something and then just I won't be able to get past, past it because it's just
You
not.
mean
I can hear like what I want, or like have a kind of radar of this isn't powerful, So yeah, and yeah, sometimes I can get into being swift and creative. I think it's maybe just thinking about it, being surrounded by music, and yeah, um, there is an element that I need to get good at, which is just that the environment is um seems to be a source of big pressure. People and just assignments, and we're all talking about like, oh, have you started the thing for the competition, stuff like that? Because there's the thing where we're writing for, orchestra basically, and there's just, I just go to bed thinking about that, you know, and it's just so it's bad because I mean, when I was, out of uni at home, I was like just so able to live that kind of simple Einstein life, just go to sleep and then be able to just put something out.
right? Well, you were mentioning that you would get started on it, and then you get stuck and you can't go any further, right?
Yeah,
You just said
yeah,
that. Okay. Well, in that case, let's play the Beethoven game, in the sense of, okay, you've gotten so far with it. What are we going to do now? We'll just repeat that. Speed
yeah.
up the tempo, give it various instruments, like da 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 da. That's
Hmm.
all there is to that Fifth Symphony.
Mm.
But wow, look what he was able to do with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Just repeating it over and over and over again. That in fact, this is much of what music is all about. Um, Here's something just very interesting that a lot of people don't quite realize, and that is a tempo, like,
hmm
let us say 2 beats a second. All right, 120. If you double that, and then double it again, and then double it again, you've got a low C. And you double that again, you
yeah,
get a middle C, and you double that again. And so
yeah.
tempo and tonality are the same thing, just at different frequencies.
Nice. I didn't know that actually. That's pretty cool.
And so playing with tempo, playing with syncopation, and then you can play with the tones also that way.
Hmm.
But you can just start with something very simple,
Hmm.
like the knuckle song. I'm sure you know the knuckle song.
The
It's
knuckles.
all played on the pentatonic scale, the black keys, where you
Oh
take
right, yeah.
dum 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 dum. See, it's a very simple thing.
Oh yeah. I think we call that chopsticks in England, maybe.
Yeah, right. Well, chops are da 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 da. There's chopsticks.
I don't know. I think I'm thinking of a different one. I think chopsticks is maybe different things.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking of da 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 on the
Mm-hmm.
Black Keys. I don't know.
Yes.
I thought that was chopsticks.
Well,
I
different
digress.
words, but anyway, it's very simple music, and the kids can learn to play. And the
Yeah,
point of it is that if you're playing that kind of music and really enjoying yourself, then music can become your career.
yeah,
But if mom buys a piano and sets you down with a teacher, and now you got to take piano lessons,
yeah.
that doesn't work. The
I'm
kids will.
finding that with this experience as well, is like I'm finding that a lot of the stuff that they're giving you, they just want you to feel like you're learning. So they're giving you history lessons, but it's just honestly, I mean, to get good at composing, you're not like it's not going to help studying all these varied things, you know. It's just you need to just be composing. So I find that like I need to just kind of stop going to some classes of just you know, just I feel like it's too much school. I'm becoming like schoolified.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm getting I'm getting I don't know what you call it, like trained to be trained.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think maybe I need to kind of stop just engage with myself a bit more. And because I feel like there's also a kind of satisfaction in being in like kind of a university or school environment. You're around people and it's like you just feel kind of like your needs are kind of catered for, and you could just totally just stop thinking about your personal goals and just be, yeah, just amongst the, I don't know what you call it, hubbub. Hubbub, is that a word?
I'm not sure, but what I'm thinking is that school often gets very competitive.
Yeah, there is an element
Competitive,
of that.
yes.
But it's a really great environment. Like people are really nice and lovely. It's not competitive, but it's just, you know, it's just school. It's just going to class. Whereas I feel what would be best if I have more time to kind of meditate, sleep enough, and then just write, and then you know be healthy and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah,
Learning to take it easy, because in
take it
fact,
easy.
school teaches us using language like you got to be on your toes, or
Yeah.
you got to work, or do your homework, or
Mm.
put in that assignment, get into a hurry. I
Yeah.
remember I was very, very much in a hurry when I was in high school.
Hmm.
And part of it was is that I was way too busy. I had a paper route, not just one paper route, but two. I had two paper routes, one with the Charlotte Observer and the other one was the Columbia, South Carolina State. And I delivered both of them.
Hmm.
And get up at, in fact, what I would do is that I would play with my electronics and my recorded music and ham radio and all of that basically at night, all night. And then I would go deliver my papers. And then I would go to school to sleep.
Wow.
I would sleep in school until about 2 in the afternoon, which is when band practice started.
What did you play?
In well, various things, but primarily the sousaphone, the tuba. I actually didn't get a tuba until I was studying in university. Before then, it was sousaphones.
Sousaphones? You mean the saxophone?
Sousaphone.
What's that?
John Philip Sousa, he took the tuba that they carried around on straps when they had marching bands in Europe. He
Yeah.
unwrapped the thing and then found a way of wrapping it so it would sit on the shoulder
Oh,
and the bell would sit up here.
that's crazy. Oh man. I've never seen one of those, but I've like seen pictures.
They're used for marching bands, which we were. In fact, we were a championship marching band, state
Really?
champion.
Oh, that's great. Were you assigned that instrument or did you choose that?
Pardon?
Were you given that instrument to play or did you kind of want to play that one?
Actually, that was the instrument my dad played in World War II.
Wow.
And
So
it was not my instrument of choice, but I did kind of the best that I could with it. Now, when I got into the U.S. Navy, because the Navy does both marching bands, but primarily the bands on board ship out at sea, back in the old days before the guys went around with headphones listening to their walkie-talkies or Walkmans or whatever.
yeah.
The only music that was available was live music. You guys live in a different world than I grew up in.
Yeah.
Okay, so to finish that part of the story about the Navy is that you had to be versatile in the Navy to play various instruments. So that if you were in a dance band, some of the guys would play a violin in the dance band, and then they'd play a saxophone out in the marching band.
Mm.
And the tuba players had to play string bass. But you can't take a string bass out marching. You just can't do it.
Yeah,
Right?
it's true.
So, but in the dance band, they wanted me to play the string bass, which was kind of the downfall. But I had a
Double bass.
very, yeah, string bass. The same thing as a bass guitar with 4 strings. On very rare occasions, they'll have 5, with a
Mm.
very, very low C as the 5th string.
Yeah.
Uh, but
B, I think.
normally it's a 4-stringed instrument,
Yeah.
and they're used with jazz for picking, but in
Mhm.
concert they normally do it with a bow,
Yeah.
just like all the other string instruments. Okay, well uh, in the Navy, um, the when I was in the Navy, by the way, it was a long time ago. We're talking about back in the 1960s, but the Navy still hadn't gotten out of World War II. They were still stuck in World War II music, which would
Mm.
be like Jimmy Dorsey
Hmm.
and that kind of stuff. Swing, they call it now.
Yeah.
Take the A Train,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Okay, which was all a lot of bass.
Yeah. Oh, so
And
would you be
so
doing that? You'd be walking? Boom, 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 boom.
no, no, no. That's the whole
No?
point is that you cannot carry a string bass
Oh,
and
right.
play it at the same time.
No, not back then.
Can't do that. Uh, and so basically what happened is that at those days I didn't have the emotional maturity that I have now. But I had an out, and that was because I was really into electronics on my own. Um, the Naval School of Music had a sound recording laboratory that
Mm.
was world class. I mean, the best of Hollywood. We had that kind of equipment, but I had already had that kind of equipment, expensive tape machines. When I started with tape, the first one was actually a wire recorder right out of the 1940s. My uncle had it. And
Mm.
then my dad did tape recording for the church so that they could record the sermons of the preachers. We're talking about back in the 1950s now. So I'd been around taping equipment all of that time, knowing all of the problems with tape, the hissing noises, the bumps, what kind of tape you had, what speed you were playing with, whether you had single track at 15 inches per second or whatever, all of that stuff. So I was able to get into the sound recording laboratory at the Naval School of Music because it was wartime. This was during Vietnam time, and all of the ETs, the electronic technicians, they were out on battleships repairing the hardware. And so the Naval School of Music didn't have any pay billets for ETs. They had to be musicians. They had to be musicians that were not only interested in making music, but also recording music. And so we had Neumann lathe. A lathe is what you
Yeah.
actually cut the disc with. So we cut disc and things like this. Um, uh,
Wow.
we also manufactured our own high-speed tape duplicating system, so that you could take regular tape that ran at, say, 3 3/4 inch per second, and run it at very, very high speed and make a copy of it at high speed. And then that high speed tape would be back at the frequency of the original tape and still be good enough quality for ordinary people to tolerate. But we had to build the electronics so that they can handle those very, very high frequencies when we were running that tape at 10 times its normal speed.
Wow.
But that's how we manufactured tape, so that we could give them out. We also had a lot of famous musicians. One was, in fact, I remember specifically Doc Holliday, who played the trumpet on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And he would come down to the sound recording. Actually, he'd come to the Naval School of Music and give trumpet lessons to the musicians. There was also another issue, and that is that all of the very high quality musicians all over the place who were in schools like Juilliard and whatnot like that, and the recruiter comes knocking on the door with the draft notice, and nobody wants to go hold a gun in Vietnam, and so all the musicians joined the Navy so that they could be musicians in the Navy. And one of my best friends was a violinist from Juilliard. I remember walking down the hall with him while he was playing Beethoven's Concerto in D, or Tchaikovsky. I was really impressed with him. But his bane was he had to learn the clarinet.
Because
Because
you had to go
he,
to the Navy.
yeah, because he was in the Navy, and the Navy does both the sitting down music of the dance bands, where he could play the violin all he wanted. But when he's out marching, he had to carry an instrument that he could play while he was marching. And you cannot play a violin while you're marching. They do not have stringed instruments. They have only woodwind, brass, and percussion. Okay, to go out marching. But anyway, I felt really inferior as a musician when I was in the Navy. Now, when I was in college, I was one of the good ones. I could do anything because, I was very good on the tuba. But when I had to pick up that string bass, being around other musicians who were really good also, and I felt really inadequate. And so I really jumped at the chance of going into the recording industry. And so that's when I kind of left music altogether as a musician and got into it in the recording end of it.
Right.
And from there, when I got out of the Navy, guess who I got a job with? IBM, repairing computers. And so that was an interesting transition from music to electronics, and music into high-speed electronics with computing and accounting machines and all of that kind of stuff. So that was my early career. But later, to round out the story, I began to figure out that I had been a musician because that's what my dad wanted me to be. That my real love was electronics and engineering and that kind of stuff. That he was the one who pushed me into music.
Yeah.
And I was able to move out of that.
Did you enjoy music, like as a person, from growing up to when you realized that it was your dad's thing?
I still actually enjoy music.
Yeah.
But I listen to it from the sense of listening to the distortion, listening to missed notes. A good example of that would be the Rhapsody in Blue. That I had a guy in high school who really wanted to play Rhapsody in Blue, but he didn't have an orchestra, but they had the score for the piano. So there was a piano backup that played the orchestra score, and I played the orchestra score for him playing Rhapsody in Blue. And we used to really practice. And so I know every note of Rhapsody in Blue.
On the piano?
Yeah, well, yeah, we were playing the piano. Yes, I had 7 years of piano lessons.
Wow. That's
Playing,
impressive.
well,
Du-du-du-du-du-du-du.
I made a big mistake, as we all did, and that is that I was prematurely trying to play piano music that was over my head.
Yeah.
Flight of the Bumblebee, Revolutionary Etude. I mean, the hardest music in the world I was trying to play on the piano. But this guy that I had as a friend, he could actually play Rhapsody in Blue. And I know that piece. But it starts on the piano without a clarinet. So I know the whole thing. And that recently I was listening to actually she was quite good because she enjoyed what she was doing. And this was on a video on YouTube. But she was making a lot of mistakes and she was just running right through them. And I bet nobody knew the mistakes that she was making because there's so many tritones and weird chords in Rhapsody in Blue as Gershwin, out of the 30s. And so I could catch that stuff. That's what I can listen to. That's what I can hear now is the technical quality of how good the music is. I would make a very good music critic if I were, this was 50, 60 years ago. But now modern music, I mean, 4 instruments is all they need and you've got a band.
So then how did you get into Buddhism and stuff after IBM? I know it's a whole long story.
Yeah, that was a long story because I started work with IBM in 1967, and I got really jealous of they had 2 different kinds of engineers. They had what they call customer engineers, which went in to repair the hardware on site. And then there were system engineers who wrote software. And I wanted to become a systems engineer. I wanted to get into software. And so the opportunity came when my house burned down. When I was working for IBM, I'd been working for them for about 3 or 4 years. And I decided I'm going to go to university. I went back to the same university that I was studying music and was able to get my bachelor's degree in computer science in just 2 years because I'd had a lot of the basic stuff like English literature and that kind of stuff. History and all of that. So I had all of these credits built up. And so I only need another 60 credits or whatever. Yeah. And so I was able to get my degree in 2 years. And the funny part about it was that the Department of Mathematics had changed their catalog in those years in between. And so I had to repeat some of the courses that weren't in the catalog anymore, but they were in the old catalog. But that gave me the ability to get a double major in mathematics and computer science. Now, I started off as a musician, and in 4 years of college, wind up with a degree in double major in math and computer science. And then I went to the University of Oklahoma and got a degree in engineering, in electrical engineering, and had been doing the software, okay? And I got a job in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which was a hippie community, big time, back in
the
those
Stooges.
days.
Is that the Stooges? Who lived in Ann Arbor? You know the Stooges.
Oh, the Three Stooges? I don't know.
No. Like Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop.
Oh, that's after my time, I think.
No, that's about the right time, I think. Are they from Ann Arbor? I think. Maybe. Iggy Pop. I don't know.
So
but
anyway,
yeah, sorry.
So I was doing database stuff in Ann Arbor. and got very much interested in psychology. To be honest with you, I was into women, and that was a really easy place to find women. Was because they had a really big school. The nursing school actually had degrees in psychiatric nursing, and so I took some classes there, and also got very much into TA, and that's when I began to figure out really that I was unhappy. I was successful but unhappy, and so now I'm off studying psychology, getting so much into it that I get fired from my job at I think in fact it was Xerox Corporation, and or actually we were using no, the name of the company was Syscom, and we were using Xerox mainframe computers.
Mm.
So in great dejection, I lowered my standards and started teaching university. And so I was a college professor for a while.
Really?
Yeah, and in those
So you
days,
did you have a master's? You had an undergrad, and then you
yeah,
had a master's in
yeah,
engineering.
master's in electrical engineering.
Wow. And how old are you around here? Like 30?
No, you're talking about, well, yeah, 27, 28 years old by then.
Okay.
Okay. And it was with the psychology that I got off into the really all that new agey stuff. I went and spent a couple of weeks with the Indians on the Tuscarora Reservation. I knew a witch from Vladivostok who was living in Detroit. I mean, really heavy duty into the New Age. I went right to the bottom of it. And also, there
Wow.
was an ashram there by a Swami named Muktananda. And so I stayed at the ashram, slept
Wow.
there, had a van, teaching university in Detroit, and had an interesting life, but I was still not satisfied. And that's when I went to India, and I started on a magical mystery tour in India while I was back and forth teaching college and going to India. And
Ooh.
and eventually got into Goenka and stayed with Goenka for quite a while.
Mm.
And then I got dissatisfied with Goenka and started living in Bodh Gaya. You've probably heard of Bodh Gaya. That's where the Buddha became enlightened in India. And I met a monk there, a Thai monk, who told me that I got to go to Thailand to see Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. And that
Mm.
by then it was 1983. And so that's when I was at
Mm.
there with at Wat Suan Mok that I ordained as a monk. Okay,
Wow.
so that means that I have been fairly deeply into mathematics, into psychotherapy and psychology, into music, into hardware electronics, into programming, and now I go off into Dhamma.
Yeah. Yeah. Into girls as
Pardon?
well. Into girls as well.
Well, I kind of got finished with that when I was in Ann Arbor. Had a
Yeah.
lot of women. Got my fill of that.
Okay. This is the 60s, right? The
No,
70s.
that was the 70s, right? The
Okay.
70s.
It's still a bit, polyamorous maybe these times. Punk
I've
rock.
had a very interesting life.
Yeah. That's great. Detroit Rock City.
Yeah,
Did you
that
listen?
was big Motown. Yeah, that
Did
was
you listen
Motown.
to Steve Kahn on the radio? Oh wait, no, sorry, Steve Dahl. Steve Dahl.
No, the name doesn't sound familiar. Collins
Oh,
does, but
he was like a rock DJ in Detroit in the 70s.
uh-huh.
Yeah, but he had this thing about like he was anti like disco, and he created that slogan "Disco sucks," and then they had this like record burning of disco records, and that was like,
Oh, I remember that.
yeah, I was in
Yeah.
Detroit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of anti-war stuff.
Yeah, no, but
They,
that was just like, I think it was a kind of rebellion against disco, and at the time maybe disco became um uncool, or maybe it was never cool, but don't know. I quite like disco myself.
there was a lot of racial stuff in the music back then. You know
There
that
was,
Motown was all black music,
yeah, yeah,
and they made their own because Hollywood
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wouldn't accept them. And
Well, yeah, that was
so,
like disco as well.
mhm.
So there was a racist element to it. Of yeah, but anyway, that's very cool though. I like that's a good arc of a life, I think. Mm.
Well, it was the evolution of figuring out that
Yeah.
I was not getting what I was looking for out of all of the stuff that I went
Mm.
went into. And it was only when I got into the Dhamma that I recognized that that's what I needed to be doing,
Mm.
which was a whole bunch of nothing, happily.
And did you find it quite easy to grasp the Dhamma, or was it like very new?
Um, it was actually quite easy to fit it into the psychology. That I
Mm.
did very well with the
Yeah.
psychology. That in fact I had gone far enough into psychology that I was almost at the PhD level in psychotherapy and psychology, where all of the other students had the big problem of if they get their PhD in psychology, how are they going to survive? Because it takes years to build up a practice.
Mm.
And that the insurance companies back then, major was called Blue Cross Blue Shield in Michigan, they would not pay for it. This is why all the diagnostic codes were invented, just trying to legitimize psychotherapy to make it like the medical model so that the insurance companies would pay for it. They still haven't gotten that problem solved. But
Mm.
I recognize that, hey, I had a fallback because I can make money anytime that I want to through computers.
Mm.
I remember, in fact, when they were having trouble at Detroit Institute of Technology, where I was there, that the college professors were worried because if they lose their job, if they close the school, they're out of luck. And one of the professors, in fact, I remember them having a conversation with me because they were jealous of me that I could go to work for any place and anything. In fact, Burroughs Corporation, which was a major computer company, was in Detroit. And I had relationships with them and did some contract work and whatnot like that. And so I wasn't so tied to the university as many of the professors there because that was all they had. I'd always found a way of having a back door or a way out or
Mm.
making it easy to get out of it. And I still wasn't satisfied. Even though I'd found a way of having a very easy, happy life, I still wasn't satisfied. It was only when I'd gotten to watch Soen Moke that I really felt at home.
Yeah. Do you think that having this varied life where you kind of tried
Mhm.
everything, was that something that made learning the Dhamma easier, or like staying in
Yes,
the
that's
Dhamma?
what I'm saying is that I apply electronics, I apply
Yeah.
music, I apply martial arts, I apply
Yeah.
all kinds of
Yeah.
science
But also
that teach.
I was thinking like because you've you know, you lived in the world doing world type things and jobs, that you have had more than a taste of it, that you never kind of you felt done with that, and you felt like when you were ordained and stuff, you weren't thinking like, oh, what if I did this? Because you'd already done that.
Yeah, I remember one time when I was off in seclusion at the back of Wat Suan Mok, that I was getting bored with nothing to do and no place to go and no books to read and
Mm.
nothing except me and the woods and the kuti that I lived in. and would reminisce about, well, I could go back to the States and make money. And then I would say, yeah, but I didn't want to do that when I was doing it. Why am I thinking about it now? And that's when it dawned upon me really hard. It really hit me that the reason that I'm here and bored is because I'm not practicing correctly. Let me get my mind back together again.
Yeah.
And that was a kind of a major revolution of
Yeah.
stop trying to think about how can I get out of my crap, because I've been trying to get out of my crap now for nearly 20 years and hadn't been able to get out of it. Now's the time to get out of it, to stop thinking that I can be better off someplace else and really get to the fact that I've already got everything right here.
Mm. And you can still, I mean, I can apply that to here as well. I mean, it's not like
Yes.
I have to be in seclusion.
No. What you have to do, there is physical seclusion, and then there is mental seclusion.
Yeah.
A good example of that was Howard Hughes. Have you ever heard of Howard Hughes?
Is he the director?
No, he was a manufacturing wizard. He had an airplane company. He was quite rich. He owned hotels and things in Las Vegas, and he had just had enough of it with all the politics and working with the government and big airplanes and all of that. And so he ensconced himself in the penthouse of one of the hotels that he owned in Las Vegas, and he was in seclusion. Nobody could get to him. The problem is that he really wasn't in seclusion because he had all of these companies to run.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a matter of physical seclusion, it's a matter of mental seclusion, which is what we started talking about in the very beginning of this conversation is that you've got, in order to be creative, you got to get away from your creation. You got to go walk in the woods like Beethoven.
I know there's not enough woods around here. Don't walk in the city, the dirty streets of South London. It's good enough.
Well, it's not the dirtiness in the streets, it's the dirtiness of not liking those dirty streets that you've got in your mind.
Yeah.
That's the place that we need to start changing, and we can do that any place. Because believe me when I tell you that the the tropical rainforest of southern Thailand is not the ideal place to be. You got snakes and bugs and creepy crawlers and hot weather and no electricity and heavy duty sunshine, and the rainy season comes, and so you can't say that that it's a paradise until you start recognizing that it's a paradise mentally. You can find 10,000 things wrong with the place, wherever the place is. But in fact, this is, by the way, the story of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the story of Adam and Eve is not the way that it's told in the religion. They get all uptight about a talking snake, and the woman did it first, and the apple, and God kicked him out of paradise. But if you read the story correctly, and in fact, I learned to read the story from Buddhadasa, who was quite fond of the story of Adam and Eve because it's all Dhamma.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, what does eating the fruit means? They had to put up with the results of their judgmental attitude. And they judged their paradise into a hell. They didn't get kicked out of physical paradise, they got kicked out of a mental paradise. How did they get kicked out of it? By choosing what was good about it and what was bad about it, rather than just accepting the whole thing the way that it is to be in reality. And so I can accept the jungle, living in the tropical forest in southern Thailand, and it becomes a paradise because I changed my attitude about it.
Is it you know, the sin of Adam and Eve, like is in this context, in the context of like with this telling of it, um, what is the sin measuring good against evil, or is it like questioning in itself? Is it like um kind of
Well,
being
isn't
starting to get theoretical, like questioning like, well, what is this and like why are we here?
we've already been through this in one of our other discussions, haven't we? Okay.
Maybe.
Uh,
Yeah.
the uh, the questioning comes from doubt and unsure. And so we become unsure. And you were asking a whole lot of questions about how to get it right. In fact, that's what you said. Oh, well, I'm asking all these questions because I'm trying to get it right. And
Yeah.
trying to get it right, like relaxing in just the right way. Well, guess what? The right way to relax is to stop trying to get it the right way and just relax. They're trying to get it right, and that's the struggle again.
Yeah.
That's the questioning.
It's like
That's the
the
doubt, and
illusion.
the doubt's a hindrance to being actually happy. Let's just be happy and stop asking all of those questions. Going back to that word stop. Let's just stop. Stop asking questions. Stop trying to get it right.
Mm.
Stop trying to make it better and just be satisfied with the way that it is.
And okay, I think what it is maybe is like I have creativity tied to doing things in a methodical way, or like figuring things out, and like evolution maybe. Um, yeah, I think maybe I'm tying evolving or something with um, making things right, and that
Mm-hmm.
also to creativity.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And guess what? You'll never get it right. The question is, can you enjoy tinkering with it? Because if you're enjoying tinkering with it, then right and wrong don't mean anything anymore. Now, what is important is that you're having fun at what you do. And when you're having fun at what you do, you gain skills at doing it. And so you get better and better at doing what you enjoy doing.
yeah,
And what is right and what is wrong anyway, making that judgment of right and wrong is what throws us out of our own paradise.
yeah, yeah,
Trying to get it right is hell. And
yeah,
enjoying it the way that it actually is just okay. And so
yeah.
when you're writing music and enjoying writing the music is good. When you've got to get it done, the quality deteriorates. When you put pressure on yourself. So
I th
long as what you're doing is fun to do, you'll figure out all kinds of things to do that's fun to do. So start having fun in your life rather than trying to get it right.
yeah.
I tried to get music right, didn't get it. Tried to get electronics right, didn't get it. Trying to get psychology right, didn't get it. In fact, that was one of the things that I began to see is that psychology doesn't work. Much of the reason is that the people are not practicing really carefully. They expect the psychologist to do the work for them.
Mm. Yeah,
I mean, they're paying $300 an hour. Why don't you do your job and fix me?
yeah. To I have this thought that is not a conscious thought, you know, but it just came into my mind then, so I thought I would just like maybe bring it up. So sometimes I just feel like everything, you know, in the Dhamma, or anything that is meant to be this kind of way of seeing life in a true way, like seeing things as they are. Sometimes I just feel like um well, I have this thought that's tells me that I'm just kind of making the best out of a bad situation. That's the phrase, you know.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So it's like kind of like things are. It's almost like I believe that everything is like pointless, but we're just going like, well,
All
just
right. Well,
it's
let's
all
go
right.
with that. If things are pointless, if things are meaningless, a lot of people get really miserable because they think that they've got to have a point to it. Why am I working so hard? Well, there's a point to all of this. And the answer really is that no, nothing has any meaning at all. 300 years from now, you're going to be dead, buried long ago, and nobody remembers you about anything.
Yeah,
All your music will be forgotten. Very rarely, but in fact, it was only when music was new, from Bach, from the Baroque times to Bach, but very few people remember any of the other musicians. And so you've got what, a handful, maybe only about 20.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Look at all the rock bands that were competing with the time with the Beatles. And only the
Right,
Beatles
right,
are
right.
remembered, but they're
Yeah.
going to be forgotten. I mean,
No.
who plays Beethoven? Everybody knows the name Beethoven, but they don't play it much anymore. But in fact, most of the Beethoven that you'll ever hear is not being played. You're listening to an old recording.
Mm,
And so that
yeah.
kind of stuff dies out. Nothing has any meaning. Nothing's going to last. Everything dies. So why don't we enjoy the moment?
So are we making the best out of a kind of
You don't have to
shit?
make the best of it. Why do you want to make the best of it? Let's have fun instead.
Okay. But that is kind of making the best out of it. It's like, well,
Well, that's to
it's
make the best of it in the sense of enjoying it rather than having a high score. A
right.
really
Yeah.
good example of that is the Harlem Globetrotters. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
With Meadowlark, the star. Okay,
Mm.
they became an exhibition team. They were just an ordinary basketball team. But when they started having fun with it, like giving the other team the score, going and making a basket for them, giving the kid, in fact, they would go to high schools. They came to our high school one time, and it was a ball because all of the high school students were doing their best to try to beat the Harlem Globetrotters, and the Golden Globetrotters were already so good they were just having fun with the kids. They'd give the ball to the kid and then take it away from him and then give it back to him.
Yeah. I struggle with this. Okay, but where are you going with this? You're just going with okay, so yeah, that's the example of like making
So
the best
live your
best
life
out of
as an exhibition,
yeah.
not a performance, not a score. They do this, by the way, with Zen archery, that they don't have competitions, they have expositions. In other words, they're not judged. They don't
Mm,
have a competition. They just demonstrate their skills.
yeah.
They're having fun at it because there's no real meaning in having a high score. Winning a
But
trophy
I think
doesn't mean anything.
what is like disturbing is just feeling like it's I can probably deal with or having no meaning isn't like sad to me, but it's more the feeling of like if there is no kind of um I don't know meaning, it's there's a
Purpose.
sense of
No
like
purpose.
yeah, well, no, it's more like not being like kind of cared for or something. I mean, this is like very probably deep in my
Right,
brain.
because a lot of us think that we're going to be well loved and well cared for if we have people who love us and care for us because they like our performance. Fans,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like the musicians, they want to have a lot of fans. But
Yeah.
look at the lifestyles and the lives
Mm.
of so many musicians who've made it to the top of their career
Right.
and they're still not satisfied. Now they go off into drugs. I mean, Elvis Presley's a really good example of a very failed musician.
Hmm.
Even though his music is still popular, that's because the people like it and they feel good when they're doing it. But he had a tragic life. How about John Belushi? I
Mm.
really love John Belushi and Animal House and all the things that he
Yeah.
did, but he died because
Mm.
of a drug overdose, because he wasn't satisfied. The question is, can you be satisfied without being a star? The answer, of
Yeah.
course, is yes.
I definitely can.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the whole point is that we can lead lives of quiet joy rather than leading the life of quiet desperation, trying to climb the mountain to get to the top because we think we'll get fans and get success
Yeah.
and be well loved. The question is, can you love yourself? Can you love this moment? Can you have happiness and uh, joy? Nurture yourself. But we're taught in our society to be critical of ourselves,
Yeah.
to
But
do better and do
does
better.
does this happiness come from recognizing the kind of truth um in the middle of all the delusions, or is it like just like a kind of you're trained to do that? Because that's what is bothering me, is like, are we training ourselves to just uh, behave in this way, or are we like being truthful? You know, I kind of feel like
All right.
I used to read fucking existentialist shit. So like this is in my brain from when I
Mm-hmm.
was like a teenager, and like I didn't believe in like free will, and I was just like, you know,
Oh, you want to
French.
hear my story about free will?
Don't know.
Guess
I
what?
don't know.
There is will, but in order to gain our will, we
Yeah,
have to have skill in
yeah,
order to do it.
I believe
And
that.
so the gaining of the skill then means that we have to put in the right effort in order to gain the skill, right? So, in that
Yeah,
regard, will is not free, it's expensive. You got to put in the effort.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that's good.
Okay, that's real freedom. That will and willpower and freedom is a skill development process. So here's the question then: would you rather gain the skills of being a top quality music performer or composer whose work is in the East End plays or on Hollywood movies, and
Yeah,
you're desperate and you got to write another piece and write another piece and you're miserable, but you're very good, very well known?
yeah,
Or the option would be is develop the skills that you don't care about any of that stuff, that you're having too much fun just playing with the music, just experimenting, just, life becomes a dance or a joy.
yeah.
So
It's a hard
that's the
choice.
question, you see. Well, it's not a hard
I'm kidding.
choice.
I'm kidding. I think I'd go with that.
But that's where we are trained in our society, is to be successful at something and then you can be happy.
Yeah.
And instead of training that the real skill is to be happy without having to do anything. Therefore, you don't have to work anymore. You can just be happy.
Mm,
You can just
yeah.
be successful at being easygoing.
I think there's, but like, is that I don't know why I'm relating everything to truth. Like, is that because we should be happy, or is that because we want to be happy?
Well, what your choice, that's the whole thing, is that here's a way of saying it, is that in our society, the way that the children are raised, they don't have much choice. The
Yeah.
example was when I was in music, my dad wanted me in music. I didn't have much choice about it. It was only later when I figured out that I have a choice. All right. So if you recognize that you do have a choice about almost everything, how would you choose to feel? You've got a choice. When you don't have a choice, you feel the way that you've been feeling. It's a habit. But
Mm.
once you have a choice, how are you going to feel? Now, that's not a I'm going to feel this way all the time, but every moment you have a choice about how you're going to feel right now. So right now, if you could feel the way you wanted to feel, how would you feel? Sad, miserable, frustrated, under pressure? Or would
Mm.
you rather feel easygoing, light, everything's okay? And a lot of it has to do with whether or not we believe that there is meaning in it. Oh, if I study, work hard, and get all of this done, then I'll get famous and then I can be happy. When I get what I want, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And we often never get what we want. So, what we can do is wisely choose what we want. And the way that we would wisely choose what we want is by choosing things that are easy to get.
Okay. Okay.
So
So it
instead
is
of
kind so
wanting to
we are training ourselves to
feel the way you want to feel,
feel the way we want
is
to
a
feel.
good, yeah. We're training to feel our way, to feel the way that we want to feel, rather than feeling the way that we were trained to feel, and
Mm.
then trying to feel better by getting the stuff that the society has told us that we have
Mm.
to do in order to feel good.
Okay.
This is called the direct method. The indirect method is the way that society works. An example is I'll be happy if I get a girl. I can't get a girl because I don't have a car. So now I got to go get a car, a chick magnet.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I work really hard and I go get that chick magnet. And then I got to use that chick magnet and work really hard to get a girl. And even after I get the girl and the chick magnet, I'm still not happy
Yeah.
because she's a lot of work because she's not happy either.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I think
so we live, we
I'm more
live,
I think the root of my troubles are more like existential. Like it's like why though? It's like it's more about like why do I exist kind of stuff. Like do I
guess what?
exist?
Does it matter why you exist?
What? I don't know. It does.
No,
Does
it doesn't. The fact is that you do exist. Why don't you enjoy existing rather than pondering
uh,
why you exist? This is exactly the same issue as the Christians and the atheists talking about the Big Bang. How did everything get started?
yeah.
Right? We try to go back in the past to justify the present. We don't need the past to justify the present. We don't even have to justify the present. We can just enjoy the fact that here it is. We become satisfied with the way things are. Let's investigate reality rather than investigate causality.
Yes.
Because we will never figure out the causality, but we can, in fact, enjoy the reality.
Oh man, that's crazy. I think this kind of stuff is like the where there is maybe, you know, there are a lot of things that I need to consider with this whole issue. I don't know. It's
No, that's the whole point. Stop considering all of that stuff.
well,
There's
I
so
need
much I need to consider. No, you don't have to consider any of that stuff. You can say, wow, I am so glad I don't have to consider all that stuff. Oh, what a relief it is. I don't have to consider all of that. I can just sit down and enjoy.
uh okay. I'm just
Can
not
you?
used to it. I'm not
I
used to it.
know. This is why it takes right effort. Right effort is built right into the Eightfold Noble Path. is
Well,
to
okay,
wake up,
okay, and if
take
I
a book,
do this
and look and
after
see
all,
what's going on, and then make a change.
will I mean, did the Buddha understand what, like, maybe he wouldn't tell me, but did he understand why he existed?
Uh, he would say that that's an irrelevant question. We don't
I
need to
mean,
know why we exist. The fact is that we do. How far back in the past you can say, oh, it's because my mommy and daddy. And then you can say, well, where did they come from? Oh, that's because I had grandparents. Well, where did they come from? Oh, that's because I had great grandparents. How far back do we have to go until we're lizards?
I guess so.
Well, the lizards were, they were kind of new on the block. What about one-celled animals? And where did they come from? Just acids and just combinations. So we're back to the elements. So you're nothing but hydrogen and oxygen and carbon. That's all we are.
Okay.
There's
So
nothing to it. It's not complicated. Why do we keep trying to make it so complicated? It's simple.
because it's like what was before everything, before
I
matter.
don't care. I wasn't there. Not my problem. The question is not what happened way long ago. The question is what's happening right now. So much is happening right now, I don't have time to think about what used to be. It's gone. It's dead. It's
Yeah.
over. But we have right now. And right now is great.
Okay. And so if right now was great, then back then was probably great as well.
No.
No.
Right now is great because I see it that way.
Uh,
Before, it wasn't great because I didn't understand it. I was too busy trying to figure out causality rather than
uh,
seeing right now I've got a reality. Never mind how I
so
got
so
here.
right now is only great because we think it's great.
Precisely. The mind is the forerunner for everything. Major teaching of the Buddha.
Damn, that's
The,
crazy. So we're kind of
no,
like,
it's not crazy. That's reality.
uh, I just feel like I'm like an AI. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm like just Chat GPT come to life. I'm just like programmed this way or that way.
Exactly. Okay. Which is another way of looking at it would be that all the things that we think are my thoughts, I'm thinking this thought, this is my thought, in fact, is not true. The thoughts that we think
Yeah.
often come from someplace else, from before.
All right.
We're just repeating the past over and over and over again. So why should I bother to do that? Let me just relax instead. Don't have to think about anything. It's just old stuff. Doesn't have much meaning.
Okay.
What has meaning right now, if anything has meaning, is the meaning that you make right now.
Hmm.
And so if you make up causality, then that's where you're stuck. But if you can give up making up what happened and how did we get here into, hey, it's nice to have arrived. Once I'm at the train station, does it matter what train I was on when I got here?
It's almost like I feel like I need there's like the purpose of I think that I believe that the purpose of existing is to kind of figure out something like
Okay.
that why I exist.
Will you be happy when you figure that out?
No, it's just that
Would you be
I'll be able
satisfied if you
it's
figure it out, or will you just be in the state of wanting to figure stuff out? And so once you get one thing figured out, now you got to go figure out something else, and you're still not happy. We get in the habit of trying to figure stuff out. And so
yeah.
another way of saying it, we're problem solving machines. And so one of the biggest problems that a problem solving machine can have is to have no problems to solve. And so we create problems just to have problems to solve
Mm,
until we give up trying to solve problems and say, hey, I was solving problems in order to be happy. I can just be happy without solving any problems. Don't have to solve them. Just enjoy. This is why the Buddha's teaching is called profound, subtle, difficult, only for the wise.
Yeah.
Because the ordinary person is still trying to figure stuff out because he thinks that it's got some meaning. This is why the religious cling to their religion, because they think that the religion has meaning. That they think, oh, that we have a God and that God gives meaning to everything. And God don't care. If he's as great and as magnificent and all-powerful and omniscient and omnipotent, then he's got so much going on that nothing in particular means anything to him. Then it all becomes kind of meaningless.
We exist. What do you think about this idea? Do we
Isn't
exist?
that wonderful? I exist, yes, and I'm going to die. Let me enjoy my existence while I've got it.
Okay. But
I'm not going to have it forever.
do you, not Dhammarato, but will you exist like will you exist like after that in any way?
Does it matter?
Oh, I feel like you're not telling me.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. That's the whole point. It's irrelevant. What you're talking about cause and effect. If there is only the effect and you don't know what the cause is, maybe there was no cause.
Yeah.
Or maybe the cause is completely different than anything that you thought was the cause. But all we have is the reality of what's happening right now. People get stuck off into rebirth and reincarnation mostly because of the fear of dying, the fear of death. It's the self-preservation mechanism, the self-preservation instinct is built right into our DNA. And the right way to look at it is let's become fearless. Let's be safe and secure right now and handle the reality of the world right now. If there is a future, I'll handle it just fine. Because I know how to handle right now. I don't have to worry about handling the future, whatever the future will be.
Okay, and it's just because we can. It's just because, like, well, we can.
Because of the confidence. I've got the confidence that I can handle anything, no matter what it is. And I don't have to go dream it up so that I get a solution for it.
It's quite absurd. It's quite absurd in a way, which is why I'm struggling.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an absurdity to just, well,
and most people are caught in that absurdity. The whole world is caught up in that absurdity. This is why the Buddha talks about the ignorance of it all.
No, but I mean, what's absurd is like being, in the situation and then being like, kind of only here and only basing off the idea that you can do things, and so you just do things that you like because you can. I think that's like feels like an absurd premise, and I don't mean absurd in a derogatory way. I mean like absurd in like a baffling sense.
It goes against what you've been taught.
Yeah, it feels absurd to me.
Right, and so can you change that feeling of absurd, which actually has the quality of doubt and questioning?
Yeah.
Can you just relax with it? Yeah, it's absurd. So what? It's okay that it's absurd. I'll be happy, absurd or not.
Yeah.
Because if it's so absurd, I'm not going to get an answer right now. And if I get the answer, I'll find something else that's absurd, and then I'll worry and fret over that. When are we going to bring all of this questioning the absurd to an end and just enjoy it?
Mm.
My dad had an expression. that I never really appreciated until years later after he is dead. And that was, as he said, that work, I'm not afraid of work. I can lay down beside and take a nap. I'm not afraid of work. All right. So here you are with the absurd. Don't be afraid of the absurd. You can lay down and take a nap beside the absurd. The mystery of it all. Yeah, so what is mysterious? That's okay. I'm not afraid of it.
It's mysterious to me.
Yeah, so what?
It's not
let it be. In fact, enjoy the mystery. Enjoy it.
Is the mystery a product of our limitations?
Yeah, it's our ignorance. That's what mysterious is all about, is that we're ignorant.
Yes, because I feel like I'm coming up against walls of, like, you know.
And you enjoy coming up against a wall. That it's absurd. So. Yeah, there's that wall of absurdness there. There's this wall of meaning there.
But there are things outside the walls.
No, you don't know that.
No.
You're hoping, but you don't know.
Does the Buddha know that?
And the whole point.
All these levels of consciousness.
It doesn't matter.
But they are.
Can you enjoy where? Well, it doesn't matter. I don't know. But I do know that the state that I have gotten is much, much more enjoyable than the states that I had when I was asking the kind of questions that you're asking.
Yeah.
Maybe getting beyond the wall is to learn to enjoy the wall.
Yeah. Classic. Yeah.
Or another one is to recognize that you're the one who built the wall. There's no wall there. You're the one who's creating the wall, hoping something beyond it.
Yeah. Trying to keep out the immigrants. Trying to keep out the Mexicans.
Yeah, they make good Mexican food.
Yeah, let them in.
Let them in. Enjoy.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. You make that wall. Can you understand that you're the one who's made the wall there? The mysterious wall. The wall of causality. The wall of mystery. The wall of meaning. And you can't get past it. And the reality is that there's no wall there.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's delusional.
It's
and like we don't need to know. If it's not here, this is one of the points I started to make a while ago. If you've got no evidence, none at all, zip, nada, then its existence is irrelevant because it's got no effect upon you at all. So whether rebirth and reincarnation or magical powers or any of that kind of stuff exist or not, it's irrelevant because it's not affecting me right now. I don't know and I don't care. Because it can't affect me. That what in fact can affect me is my own mind. And when I get that under control, then when I come across things that I've never seen before, I can handle them just fine. Rebirth, nothing to it. I can handle it. Reincarnation, nothing to it. I can handle that too. Magical powers, sure, bring them on. I'll check them out. I can handle that.
Damn.
I can enjoy it. But right now, I don't have to deal with it. So why are you dealing with it in your mind when in fact there's nothing to deal with? You're trying to figure out something without proper evidence. Wait until you get the evidence and then do an evaluation. Until then, deal with the evidence you've got. And the evidence you've got is we're alive. We're real. Here it is. Let's enjoy it. It's temporary. Let's have fun at it. You can enjoy your life right now from the rest of your life as opposed to worrying about what life is like for the rest of your life without even experiencing life itself. Because you're too worried about what it's about.
Yeah. And karma and stuff. you know.
Yeah.
But
Well, karma is basically that you don't like what happened.
that's
And
crazy.
you don't like the results, and you don't even know the results. That in fact, to be honest with you, a lot of what we've been talking about today, the Buddha did reference under the condition of the four imponderables.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the four imponderables?
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
them.
What is the causality? How did it all get started? We'll never know. That's an imponderable. We don't know. We don't have the evidence. How about the results of good and bad actions, the karma? We don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen with the karma. We don't know what our actions will have in the future, but we do know how they affect us right now.
And is this imponderable full stop?
Yeah, it's imponderable.
For the
Don't
Buddha?
ponder it
For the Buddha?
because you wouldn't come to an answer. So don't try to come to an answer. That's a lot of work that's going to be fruitless. It's got no value to it other than
Okay.
keeping you feeling bad with your
Yeah.
doubts, your worries, your
Just
curiosities.
okay. Just to quench me. If we go to another level of consciousness,
Hmm.
is it
But you don't
still
even know what that is. That's an
okay?
idea, a
But
dream that you
I
have. You're making that up.
well, doesn't the
In
Buddha talk
fact,
about this?
you're
There's many
touching
different.
actually on one of the other of the four imponderables. One of the four imponderables is what is the extent of the human mind. You don't know that. Beethoven had no idea that his piano music and his orchestral music will not be played anymore, but it'll still be heard because it's all on recording. He didn't ponder that. He had no concept of it.
Yeah.
20 years ago, people did not have any concept of a cell phone until they were invented in 2005.
Okay. But
You don't
so
know the
but
extent of what's
what I'm
going to
saying
happen.
is these imponderables are related to being a human this mind.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
maybe they're not related to if you're like a celestial being.
Well, guess what? What is a celestial being? What do they talk like? How do they happen? I want to go into this just a little bit, and I'll start with the burning bush in Genesis.
Yeah.
Okay, and that Moses was wearing sandals, and the burning bush says, "Moses, take off thou shoes, for thou art upon holy ground." You see, Moses was on holy ground. He didn't even know it. You're in paradise yourself right now, and you don't even know it. That in a really, really big and important way, I am a celestial being. And you've met him and you still don't know that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, but what
Because
as
your ideas of celestial beings doesn't fit the reality of what you find right in front of you.
hmm.
And so we live in an idealized ideal world, and then we make ourselves miserable because reality doesn't match up to our ideals.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
Adam and Eve lost their paradise because the paradise they had didn't match up to their delusions about what was good and bad, right and
Yeah.
wrong. And so they lost the paradise they had. And here you have lost your paradise that you're right in it. In fact, I go barefoot almost all the time. I would
Yeah.
say that I wear shoes less than about 2 hours a month.
Yeah.
And I have gone that way for years. When I was a monk in the United States and the Christians would come by and they say, "Well, why do you go barefoot all the time?" And I says,
Yeah.
"Don't you
Yeah.
know the story of the burning bush? I'm likely to be on holy ground any moment now. I'm going to be ready for it."
That's good.
And when the mind is whole, when it's unified, When you're not dividing it between right and wrong and good and bad and up and down and confusions and thoughts and lies that we tell, when the mind is unified and whole, that makes it holy. So just relax. You're in a holy place already. You've already arrived. There's no place to go. Stop being a pilgrim and start being a saint right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stop being on your way to some place and recognize that you've arrived. You're already enlightened, so the Zen master says.
And is it inherently holy? Is this?
It's already holy.
And
Reality is real. That's what makes it holy.
Despite what we think.
Right. It's our hell of the mind that we make.
Right.
Because we judge it.
So there's reality in our mind, and then there's reality.
Mm-hmm. The reality that we make up, the stories we tell.
Okay, I like that. I like to hear that. That's good.
And let's stop doing that and start living in reality. Real reality. Here it is. Wow, we live in a paradise.
Yeah, that's what I think makes me feel much better. Is because I don't want to just be like I kind of Blade Runner, like how he's like I feel like Blade Runner guy a lot. Blade Runner, and he's like
I know the concept. I know I know that it's a movie. I know there's a 47 and a 2000 and something. There's several movies about Blade Runner, but you can hear the word blade and you can hear the word runner and put those together and you've got a problem.
Yeah. So like the book as well is about, it's like he's a kind of machine who doesn't realize he's a machine. And I've been scared of that. So, but
Okay, so you're a machine. If that's the reality of the situation, and we're a biological, electromechanical machine.
Well, that's what I'm worried about.
We've got a really bad program. And what that program is that you're worried about who you are. When in fact, who you are is not important.
Yeah. But I'm relieved because like I do understand that it's not all just like a kind of, I'm not a freaking, I don't know, robot, I guess.
Well, that's okay if you're a robot. Are you a happy robot? Or are you full of misery robot? Doesn't matter what you call yourself. The question is, how do you feel?
Yeah.
And one thing about robots, they haven't been able to teach the robots how they actually feel. They've only taught them how to repeat what humans have told them. Just like you. In a way, you're much more of a robot because you're just asking the questions that you read out of a book or heard someplace else.
Yeah.
Can you actually be human by beginning to feel the way you want to feel? Relaxed, comfortable, happy, whole, holy.
So that's like free will.
Except that it's not.
Huh?
Because you started off being not free, not having goodwill. And you have to manufacture that. You have to train. You have to practice to come out of your bad habits of questioning everything. Just enjoy. That's the effort. The right noble effort is to put away all the questions, all the thoughts, all the worries, all the problems, all the causality, all the original causes, all of what's going to happen with karma.
That's free will.
All of those. Yeah, just put it all aside and just say, wow, I don't have to think about any of that stuff right now. What a relief it is to not have anything to worry about.
Yeah. And so doing all of that, you're saying, is like the programming, and then coming out of it is
just relaxing.
Okay, which is
like on a computer, just go into idle mode. You don't have any programs running, so just take it easy. The CPU is cool. It's not working so hard.
But we decide to do that. Do we decide to do that?
Yes, every moment you have a choice.
Okay, good. I'm kind of scared because, like, in the past with some non-dual teachers who I was learning from, they have a thing about, non-doership, which I get. I totally get that, but it was like too much, and at the time I was like too young and I didn't really get it, so I was just kind of taking it as like anything I do is
Well, figuring
not
it
free.
out is duality. There's you and the problem. When you
Yeah,
don't have any problem, then there's just reality,
yeah,
the unity. Yes, I'm very much into the non-dual. In fact, I don't
yeah,
even like the word non-dual,
no,
and just use the word holy, wholeness.
yeah. But I think with a lot of those teachers, they're just kind of doing their own thing, which is based off like,
They read that
um,
stuff. Now they're repeating it
yeah,
without fully understanding it.
yeah, like Maharshi and I am that stuff, and they go, like
Well,
there is no one, which I get that, but it's like you can't really just say that on a YouTube video. You know what I mean? It's like, how is that helpful? I'm just saying, like, to these people, out
why?
there.
Why? Okay, here's the really funny answer. Why do we think we need help? You've already got all you need. I'm not trying to be helpful. I'm just trying to explain to you that
Yeah.
you don't need help. What you need is to stop trying to get help
Yeah.
and just
Okay.
enjoy. Stop
That's
trying
helpful.
to get love. There's a song you know. I know you know this song. Looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love. That's what you're
Okay.
doing. You're looking for love and you've got it mislabeled. And when you start to love yourself, then you've got all the love you need. But we're looking for love in all the wrong places. We're trying to figure it out. So
Yeah.
just love
Okay.
yourself. Just love yourself. Everything is cool. Just relax. Oh, take it easy. That's when you become
So simple.
unified, is when you just love yourself. It's okay. Everything's all right.
Yeah.
Love yourself, warts and all.
Okay.
You're
Like,
already okay.
these things that I have will either disappear or
Well, if
be.
they disappear, then they don't mean anything. They don't mean
Yeah.
anything after they've disappeared. How could they possibly mean anything before they've disappeared? It doesn't mean anything. Just enjoy your life.
Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, wow, what a relief.
It's just the arising stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I've been attached to, maybe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Attached to how things are supposed to be rather than enjoying the way things are. They're supposed to mean something. So we got to go find that meaning. Guess what? We don't have to find meaning. We can just relax.
Yeah. It's just all these movies and stuff. Like literally, like the movies, like the Holy Grail, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
they're looking for something.
Yeah, 3 acts. You need 3 acts, and then you need the film to
But
end.
the actual movie of the Holy Grail, in a way, the Monty Python
Yeah,
movie, in a real way, is sending up that Holy Grail issue.
yeah,
There is no Holy Grail.
yeah,
Or if there is, here it is. This is it.
yeah. And then at the end, he's being crucified, then he's whistling.
Oh, that's Life of Brian.
Oh shit, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but
Okay, well
that's the whole
that
thing.
whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's a good
Always look
analogy.
on the bright side of life.
Yeah,
Da-dum, 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 da-dum.
that's
Those are
fucking
movies out of
great.
my time.
Yeah, yeah.
So make your life a comedy. Start enjoying life.
Yeah.
You're not going to get out of it alive anyway. There's no meaning to your life anyway, so just enjoy it.
There's no meaning. A meaning is like a made-up concept.
A made-up concept. And guess what? It's made up concept by those who think that there is meaning, and now they want you to have meaning so that they can exploit you. That almost all meaning is exploitation. An example of that is God means something, give me money.
Yeah. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Shit.
Or you've got to have a job so that the boss can make money off of it. And so money is the meaning.
Jesus. Yeah.
And money
Wow.
doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. It is a very oppressive thing then, maybe. You know, maybe created through these, for means of corruption. Meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah,
That's a very good way of looking at it, because I feel
yeah.
I can distance myself from meaning now a bit more.
Great, good. Because it don't mean a thing if you ain't got that
That's
swing.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's get that swing and make your own meaning.
Yeah. Start swinging. Take the bass for a walk.
All right. Well, Frankie, this has been a really good talk. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, same. I think it started out with something that I think I'm more interested in this other stuff than the stuff we were talking about in the latter half, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It is more like what is really on my
Yeah,
mind.
what's really going on is that we need to relax and just enjoy life.
Yeah.
Everything is okay already. The reality is that we are in a paradise. Stop judging it, because we destroy it when we judge it.
Hmm.
Trying
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah, it's easy. Cool.
We'll see ya.
I'll see you
Excellent.
later. Thank
Yes,
you.
see you
Thank you
soon.
so much. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.